这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
A single dead fly can ruin a whole jar of sweet oil. In an old town by the sea, traders carried small clay jars filled with thick, sweet ointment. The ointment was made from olive oil, herbs, and flower sap. It took many days to make. Workers picked olives under the hot sun. Women crushed them with heavy stones. The oil ran slow and green into wide bowls. Then healers mixed and crushed leaves and sweet resin. The smell was rich and soft. People used it to heal cuts, to smooth dry skin, to honor guests. A jar of good ointment was worth real silver. One summer was hotter than the rest. Flies were everywhere. They buzzed over fruit stands, over fish laid out on wood tables, over the jars of oil that cooled in the shade. Shop owners waved cloth fans all day. They covered their goods with thin linen. Still, the flies found their way in. A young worker named Eli worked in a small oil shop near the market gate. He was careful. He washed his hands. He kept the jars sealed. He dreamed that one day he would run the shop on his own. The old owner trusted him because he moved slow and steady, not fast and wild like other boys. One afternoon, a rich buyer came from another town. He wanted 10 jars of the best ointment. The old owner smiled wide. This order could feed the shop for months. Eli felt proud when he carried the jars from the cool back room. The lids were tight. The clay was smooth. The smell was perfect. As Eli lined up the jars, he heard a soft plop. It was small, almost nothing. He looked down. A black fly had slipped under the cloth and fallen into one open jar that had just been filled. The surface of the oil moved in a slow circle. The fly tried to crawl out, but its wings were heavy with oil. Eli froze. He could scoop it out. Maybe no one would notice. The oil still looked clear. The buyer was watching from the door, tapping his foot. The old owner was busy counting coins on the table. The shop was quiet except for the buzz of more flies at the window. Eli reached for a small wooden spoon. His hand shook. He lifted the fly out. A thin line of oil trailed back into the jar. The fly's body left a faint dark mark that slowly spread. The smell changed, just a little. It was still sweet, but there was a sharp edge now. The buyer stepped closer. He leaned over the jar and sniffed. His face tightened. He dipped one finger in and rubbed it on his wrist. He looked at the old owner and said the oil was not pure. He pushed the jar back. The old owner frowned. He smelled it too. He knew that scent. When a fly dies in oil, It breaks apart. It starts to rot. The rich scent turns sour. One small fly can spoil a whole jar. The buyer refused the order. He said he would find oil in another town. The coins on the table were swept back into a bag. The door closed hard. The shop felt empty. The old owner did not shout. That was worse. He asked Eli what had happened. Eli told the truth. He spoke about the plop, the spoon, the dark mark in the oil. He said he thought it would be fine. He said he did not want to lose the sale. The old owner nodded slow. He said a jar of oil is like a good name. It takes years to build. One small bad thing can sink into it and spread. People may not see it at once, but they will smell it. They will feel it. Trust, once spoiled, is hard to clean. That night, Eli could not sleep. The smell of sour oil stayed in his nose. He kept thinking about that small sound, that tiny splash. It seemed so small, yet it had cost them so much. In the years that followed, the story of the spoiled jar was told in the market. Not to shame Eli, but to teach the young workers. They would laugh about how such a small fly could cause such big trouble. Still, they watched the jars more closely after that. They tied the cloth tighter. They checked each lid twice. Far from that town, long before Eli was born, a wise king wrote words about flies and oil. He wrote that dead flies make the ointment of the perfumer give off a bad smell. He used that image to speak about wisdom and foolish acts. A person could be wise and honored, but one foolish choice could stain that honor. People remembered the picture because it was simple and real. Anyone who had seen a fly drown in oil understood it at once. Time moved on. Clay jars turned into glass bottles. Markets turned into bright stores with clean floors. Yet the phrase lived on. People began to say there was a fly in the ointment when something good had one small flaw that spoiled it. A fine plan with one weak part. A happy day with one sharp word. A strong friendship with one lie hidden inside. The power of the phrase comes from how small the problem seems at the start. A fly is light. It can rest on your finger. You can brush it away with a wave of your hand. Ointment is thick and rich. It feels strong and safe inside its jar. No one expects the tiny insect to win. That is where the tension lies. We build something sweet. A job. A family. A dream we have carried since we were young. We guard it from big threats. We watch for storms and thieves. Yet we may ignore the small habits that slip in each day. A harsh word spoken in anger. A promise delayed. A corner cut when no one is looking. They seem small, like that soft plop in the jar. At first, nothing looks ruined. The surface is still smooth. The scent is still mostly sweet. We tell ourselves it will not matter. We even try to scoop the problem out and move on. But some things sink deeper than we think. They change the tone, the trust, the air in the room. In the old oil shop, Eli learned that care is not only about big acts. It is about small moments when no one is cheering and no one is clapping. It is about what you do in the second after the fly falls. Years later, Eli did run his own shop. He became known for clean oil and honest trade. When young workers asked why he checked every jar himself, he would smile and say that sweet oil and a good name both need watchful eyes. He never forgot the lost sale. He never forgot the smell that turned from sweet to sharp. When you hear someone say there is a fly in the ointment, think of that jar sitting in the warm air. Think of the tiny splash that changed everything. In your own life, what looks small but carries weight? A habit you laugh at. A word you keep using. A truth you keep hiding. A single dead fly can ruin a whole jar of sweet oil. A single small choice can tilt the path of a life. The good news is just as real. If you guard the jar early, if you brush the fly away before it sinks, the sweetness stays. The scent stays pure. And the story told about you in the market of your world will carry the smell of something clean and whole.
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。